Dupal has evened things up here, though. Aaron took game 1, but Steven took game number 2, so he'll be going to a third one.
He can get out of the gates pretty fast.
He can get out of the gates fast. This can be a tough matchup, though, especially post-board when Steven gets 3 copies of Anger of the Gods.
Yeah, that's the big one, right? You know, you see 3 copies of those over there, and Hostilities is okay, but it's a little bit slow against this deck, especially when you're on the draw. 5 mana, Master Removal spell like that. 2 Elspeths, the Utter End, the Erase, the Glare of Heresy, the 2 copies of Breathe the Bones, the 3 Thoughtseizes. You see the other cards that he has the option to bring in, but I think the only one that really matters is Anger of the Gods.
Yeah, well, this Mardu mid-range deck is very well equipped to deal with lots of creatures. And, you know, especially after the sideboard, it can do that really well.
On the other side, you see Barich's sideboard, 2 Banishing Lights, 4 copies of Nyx Fleece Ram, a Bile Blight, a Gather Courage, a Murderous Cut, 2 Sorin, Solemn Visitor, and the 4 copies of Thoughtseize. If you weren't with us yesterday, you didn't see how great Gather Courage was for him. He's got 3 copies of that card in his main deck, the 4th one in the sideboard. That is a card that does allow him to beat Anger of the Gods, or at least fight against it a little bit.
Yeah, we saw that when Aaron played against Brad. He actually used Gather Courage to protect his creatures from Anger of the Gods, which is a really strong interaction. What he's got to hope is that Steven doesn't have too much early game removal, so he's hoping to dodge a lot of Crackling Dooms, Lightning Strikes, Murderous Cuts, Chained to the Rocks. These 1 and 2 mana kill spells can be especially potent against Aaron's deck.
Well, game number 3 going to be underway here in just a moment. We'll have the winner of our 3-month premium giveaway for you guys after this match is over. And then we'll be taking a short break and moving on to our semifinals. Do want to note for Brad Nelson, as he's been eliminated for this tournament, 10 Open Series points. Big deal for him. That'll catapult him, as you mentioned, right at the standings. He's no longer the cutoff, as we're going to have to update our leaderboard after this tournament's over. Barich is looking at a pretty aggressive hand, a couple copies of Manic Influence. See if he's got a 1-drop to start things off with.
Dupal's got to be pretty happy with what he's looking at. He has Seeker of the Way into Hordling Outburst, so that's an early lifelinker.
Oof.
He also has a copy of Utter End and Chained to the Rock, so I'm not sure he has a mountain to chain the creatures to just yet.
Top card's going to go to the bottom here for Dupal for Temple of Silence. Barich will draw a card. It's a Forest. Fleecemane Lion? Absolutely. There's the 3/3. Dupal will draw Lightning Strike.
Right on time to deal with the 3/3.
Does he have a land?
He has Bloodstained
Okay,
Mire.
I was going to say, this is a risky keep if he doesn't have a land.
Which is great. Not only is it the red mana source for his now 2 Lightning Strikes in hand, but it's also a mountain for his Chain to the Rocks. So this is what I think Aaron fears in the matchup, which is Steven having Lightning Strike, Chained to the Rocks at the beginning of the game.
You know, he does have the ability to blow up a Lightning Strike with Gather Courage. We know, again, he's got 3 of those in his main deck and 1 of his sideboards. So oddly enough, you know, he does have a way to fight back against that card, which is pretty unique. But, you know, I feel like that trick only really works once, I suppose. Though, you know, on this board, I could see, you know, Steven just saying, okay, Lightning Strike your creature, get your Gather Courage out of your hand, something like that. So it is a little risky to do this now, though.
Steven, and I like this, he plays it on Aaron's upkeep so that if Aaron Gather Courages, he won't get the attack that turn.
No, he just pays the mana for Gather Courage.
Well, then he loses a mana, main phase mana.
I mean, I actually hate that play because you're trying to deal 3 and then you end up taking 5 points of damage. He just taps a Forest, plays Gather Courage, and then like if he has a land, he just can play Heir of the Wilds. I think that play's horrible, but I mean, it ends up like not working out poorly. But I think that's way too risky, especially when you have access to your opponent's deck list and you know they have 4 Gather Courage in their deck.
I guess if you know Aaron's hand, you're right though. If Aaron has a playable 2-drop, like the worst case scenario would be that Aaron has no second 2-drop and just has Anafenza.
Sure.
And if that's good, then the Lightning Strike works. But you're right. There's a huge risk to that because you know a Pump Spell can really hurt that Lightning Strike.
Seeker of the Way is going to come into play. Here's an attack with Anafenza for 4. A land, and now it's going to be a Siege Rhino.
No 3rd land from Steven was huge there. If he had the land, he would have been able to chain Anafenza to the rocks. But without it, he's falling behind. And one thing you don't want to do against these Aaron Barich style decks is fall behind early.
Yeah, he's stumbling and fumbling around on mana now, too. These creatures are out of Lightning Strike range. He does have a Chain to the Rocks. But he's in some serious trouble, and Barich's hand is actually pretty good. He's got a 5th land, which he doesn't really need any more of those, but he has an Abzan Charm along with a copy of Heir of the Wild. So he's got other action here, and Dupal's going to have to cast a removal spell. There's Chain to the Rocks. It's going to go on the mountain. Siege Rhino's going to bite the dust. And Seeker of the Way, well, it's probably best attacking here, as it is a 3/3. Prowess has been triggered, so get some life back, go up to 15.
The lifelink here is very important for Steven. It gives him time to draw that land. And if you look at their hands, if Steven can get enough lands into play here, the game looks really good for him.
3 mana. Banishing Light, Taker, Chain of the Rocks. Here comes a Rhino.
The great thing is he gets to enter the battlefield again. That's 3 more life.
And see this, and this is the kind of game, and this is why I like Barich's deck, because yes, Anger of the Gods is good against his deck. If you take a look at his deck list, it's really good against his 1 and 2 mana plays. It's really good against Fleece Mainline, Heir of the Wilds, Rakshasa Death Dealer if there's no mana available, and of course the 1-drops Bloodsoaked Champion and Soldier of the Pantheon. But it's not good against this.
Yeah, it does. Anafenza and Siege Rhino are both huge.
Yeah.
And the fact that Aaron's deck has access to both of them gives him a lot of game against cards like Anger of the Gods. I mean, this is a hand that most players would really want against Abzan. Against Abzan aggro. It was 3 Lightning Strikes, a Chain to the Rocks, and Anger of the Gods. Aaron wasn't going to get there with his 3/3s and 2/2s.
See if you're going to do a little bit of math here. See if there's a way to work himself out of the situation. He did finally draw a 3rd land. You can see the copy of Battlefield Forge. So he will play that here in just a moment as he tries to figure out exactly what he can do to get himself out of the situation. But some of the cards, the shelf life on them, they were very time sensitive. Now it might be gone. Like a card like Hoarding Outburst just isn't very good anymore in this situation. There, if he was able to play, Seeker and a Hoarding Outburst, I think this game's wildly different. But
yeah, if he has that 3rd land on turn 3, that's probably what Steven needs.
Yeah. It showed up too late to the party. Also, it's a painful land, too. We can't forget about that. So him taking damage here is not great. He's just going to pass the turn back over to Barich. Barich's last card in his hand is an Abzan Charm. He just drew another copy of Siege Rhino.
And that should be enough here.
Probably.
That's going to be really hard for Dupal to come back from.
There's a Lightning Strike on Heir of the Wilds trigger. Seeker of the Ways, Prowess. Barich is looking at Abzan Charm, has the ability to distribute +1/+1 counters if he'd like to for a bit of a blowout here. And okay. Just going to go after this instead.
Yeah, lets the Prowess trigger resolve. Then, now that Seeker of the Ways is a 3/3, he can Abzan Charm and exile it. And that actually does make this lethal now, because Steven doesn't have a lifelinker left to block with. Aaron is threatening to win the game right here.
Okay. Exile target creature with power 3 or greater. Well, there goes my Heir of the Wilds. Lightning Strike will take care of that. So Dupal's going to need a 1-mana spell. Here's the beatdowns. Trigger Anafenza, put that there. Murderous Cut, don't have enough cards in the graveyard, and that is going to do it. Aaron Barich is going to win this game and this match. 2-1. #1 overall seed is going to battle against Shaheen Saroni in the next round.